Hey, it's Brad from the editing desk, and I'm going to throw you into the Apple rumors in just a second, but I'm just warning you that this episode we split up into two parts. So it doesn't start with our traditional SyrupCast opening, but it is our traditional SyrupCast talking about the tech news. So enjoy, and if you do want to watch the opening with the Chrome OS talk from this week, that is on our channel as well. It'll probably be linked up here in the corner. Anyway, thanks for watching, and consider subscribing if you guys like our content.
Any other final thoughts on the Chrome OS Mac PC thing? It seems cool. It's like a good idea for like repurposing old computers. I would 100% do that if it is capable of running on the little baby 12-inch Mac, which is like such a nice looking device. I would do that.
Beautiful
Just turn it
device
into
to
like
have
a
as your,
Chrome based browser machine.
right? Because it's like it's just turning all these because Macs they lose their value because of what's inside them. Like the chips get slower, but
Yep.
the hardware is always so good. So if you can just like refresh that into a little Chromebook, that'd be sweet. Or even like I know Apple would never do this, but if they could just get like iPad OS on there, so it's running real light, and you could just use it with the mouse and keyboard. That'd be pretty funny too.
So interestingly, you bringing up the like whole iPad OS, Mac OS differentiation thing. There's
Wow.
that device that I wrote about today. Apple's rumored to be working on. I forgot what the screen size was. Where do I have it?
For the
A 20
foldable?
a 20-inch foldable that's kind of like a
Yeah.
2-in-1 surface. The report's like a little shady and it's a little weird, but it is from supply chain
Supply chain
supply
consultants.
chain consultants, Ross Young, who's like a pretty reliable analyst, and there's usually some level of truth to what he's saying. Perhaps they're not entirely accurate predictions or whatever, but there's always like some level of truth to it. And like reading, I didn't write this in the news post because it was very much just a rewrite of a Tom's Guide story. But like thinking back now, I think that maybe that could be the device that blurs the lines between Mac OS and iPad OS. Like that's what it sounds like
I
because
want it to be.
it would be a hybrid device. Like the
Because
idea is
what
that
would it run if it didn't? Yeah, you're right.
it
Because
would have
you
to.
couldn't put Mac OS on it. Yeah.
It folds. It has a touchscreen. It's kind of unclear based on the report, like what the folding actually looks like. But it also turns into like an external monitor that you could then attach like a smart keyboard to and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this wasn't something we planned to talk about, but I just wanted to mention it because it does sound like that could be that
Well, we're
device
talking about Apple
that
rumors. I mean, this is a rumor.
it's
The
true.
foldable stuff's been going on for a long time, and to be honest, the foldable stuff has been going on for so long that wasn't really interesting me. And then as soon as you were like, "But this could blur the line between the OSs," I was like instantly like peaked. I was like, "Oh yeah, you're right." Like they will have to do something quite revolutionary. Not all that's I'm probably overselling it there, but they're gonna have to do something to like mix them up to do a device like this, which we probably there's well, I guess just to round out this leak post that we're talking about, they're saying it's potentially coming in like late 2023 or 2024, but I wouldn't even expect it that soon. I don't think Apple's strategy needs a shakeup that soon. I think they're putting too much on the M series stuff right now.
This
Maybe not.
leak specifically says that it was planned for 2025, but that it's more likely for 2026 and 2027, which like I just
Okay.
assume I'll be dead by 2027, so I won't be covering that one. But that's like so far out. Like actually, like I'm joking, but that's quite a while from now. That's down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
what are we expecting to actually see at the event, do you think?
Before we get to that, let's hit like a very very super quick ad break, and then we'll talk about Apple's upcoming March event. So yeah, just to recap it, Apple has an event coming. We don't necessarily know exactly when it's going to be. I think the rumor is March 8th. There's a couple things that we're expecting to see for certain. So we're going to see a new iPad Air. This is going to be like not an incredibly exciting refresh of the Air. That happened with the last version of it, where we got a more iPad Pro like Air. It's got the squared off sides. It's
Really
got
cool
the
colors. Probably get new colors, I
yeah,
think.
cool colors. There could be new colors. Yes, that's true. The side fingerprint sensor, that was the first time we saw the side fingerprint sensor in an Apple device. And then we saw that appear again with the iPad mini, right? Which
Yep.
you reviewed for the site.
Yeah, the mini is basically like a shrunken down Air, but the weirdest part about the mini was it came out after the Air. It's sort of marketed as being below the Air, but had a more powerful chipset.
It was a
So I
weird
think
time.
this Air updating to that more powerful chipset or something even a step above what the mini has, I think makes a lot of sense.
It's going to have the A15 is what I expect. I think Apple's going to keep the M1 or the M1 Pro or the M1 Max if we do see those in a tablet down the line. Those are going to be kept for the iPad Pro. They're not going to put it in the Air.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I expected it to be the exact same tablet, which at the time when it came out, I called like Apple's best all around tablet offering. Like if you're considering price and features and everything, obviously the iPad Pro is better. Like it's a better device, but just being more price conscious, there was like a lot that the Air offered, even when compared to the Pro. Like it was almost pretty comparable features across the board.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna see that almost nearly 100% because it's long overdue for an update. And then we're also gonna see the third gen iPhone SE.
I want to get into the SE a lot. But do you think, just before we leave the iPad Air, do you think we're just getting a chip bump? Do you think they throw like an extra camera in or something?
I think you could
Amazon keeps
see.
calling me. I'm sorry.
I
There's a
wonder what they're
delivery
calling
due to
you.
my house. Yeah.
Uh, I don't know what they would change. Like, I mean, they could put the LiDAR sensor in it, but I don't see that happening. I honestly think it's going to be pretty much the exact same tablet that we've seen in the past. Like, I don't think there's going to be any significant changes to it. It's going to be like a pretty pedestrian processor bump. I don't see camera changes coming.
Yeah, maybe new screens. Maybe this is like the differentiating factors. They bring like the high end screens or like promotion to it or something.
They could bring
Um,
promotion. That's possible. Yeah, I could see
yeah,
that happening. Um,
and then
but
they like
yeah,
really hype it up as like a drawing device. Maybe.
could be something. There'll be new colors. I know we already mentioned that. Like,
Okay,
I
here's a
don't know
question
what.
actually about the colors. Do you think
Yeah,
an entirely new slate of hues, like obviously they've done yellows before, but do you think we'll get a new flavor of yellow? Or do you think they'll match either like, the iPhone 13 line or the iMac line? Like they'll pick from an existing sort of pool of Apple colors? Or do you think we're going to get like brand new colors like we did
I
last
think
time?
it'll be an existing pool, but variations of that pool. Like it'll
Yeah.
be close to like, for example, the iMac yellow or whatever, but it'll be slightly different. So it won't look
Hmm.
entirely identical, but it'll still be all those same that same array of colors because I think they want to keep some level of uniformity to it. But also
I
like
hope they do. I hope they
the
really do.
phones aren't
Because,
the same colors as the iMacs, right? Like so
yeah,
they
and the
could go
iPads have
totally
been
other way.
kind of different. The iPad mini had like a different color and only one color. We've been talking about it for years, like you and I, and on this podcast. But we're we're all holding out hope for a colorful MacBook Air to just like really tie in like Apple's base model color.
Oh, colorful
Products are
MacBook Air would be
colorful,
so sick.
and the Pros are silver and gray, and it's just like I don't know why Apple hasn't done that yet. They kind of have, but they've never like fully
Yeah.
100% committed to it. And I think I would sleep better if they did. I would get a restful night if I knew Johnny Ive's dreams had been just like fully realized.
Such a different Apple without him, which we'll get
Yeah.
into. Like there's so many
Yeah,
things that just never would have happened on his watch.
you're right. Maybe that's why, like, the question I just asked you, like, oh, they use colors, but like asking about Apple using different colors before into the Johnny Ive world would be like, ha 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 ha. Ha. No, there's like a 10% chance there's a color. Johnny Ive doesn't, I don't think he sees color. He sees
Or
everything in
even
gray.
or even like the new MacBook Pro. Like we were talking this about it before we started recording. Like from a
Oh,
utility
getting thicker. Oh, yeah.
perspective, just in general, like the Pro is sick. It's like what everybody always wanted. It has an
Yeah.
HDMI port. It has all the USB ports you want, USB-C ports you want. USB-A
SD
is not
card
back,
slot.
but
Good
think
cooling.
I don't think the argument for USB-A coming back really makes sense in 2022 or even 2021. Like USB-C is pretty common now. Like
Yeah.
just get an
I think
adapter if
USB
you
is
still have
dead.
older
Yeah.
devices. Back in like 2015 when Apple first made the switch, it was more of like it was a little too much too soon. And yeah, like you mentioned the SD card slot, but it's chunky. It's like a chunky laptop. It's not sleek.
There's even
It
something about the
has like
keyboard being deeper. Like those presses are satisfying, but the thinner, lighter travel at the time, it was like it felt futuristic. It was like I'm living in the future and I don't need to type as much. I don't need to press as hard on my keys anymore
I
because I'm in the
love the butterfly
future.
keyboard. Like
Yeah.
I
The
did have
lack
issues
of
with
it.
it,
Yeah,
and
you had the most issues
I had the
actually.
most
I've
issues of
had issues with
anybody.
this Pro, but you had issues with the butterfly keyboard a lot.
And I was cleaning it all the
You were
time, and
shaking your
it
head.
still would
The
break. I like
nightmares
even
in your
got it.
eyes.
Yeah,
The
I got it
flashback.
replaced a bunch of times. I'm having flashbacks now. It was
Yeah.
awful. But if they found it, like I know the keyboard had to change. Like it had to change. Like they just couldn't make it work. There was like 3 generations of it. There's ones with like a silicone coating. They like tried changing the keycaps a little bit. Like nothing worked.
Yeah, they were
100%
getting
nothing
like a
worked.
bad reputation for it. They had to change the name, the branding of it.
It's one of the biggest disasters in Apple history. And like they
Yeah.
kind of just swept it under the rug. Like every single laptop that was sold during that period suffered from some sort of an issue. And they never like completely admitted to it. They had a repair program that was relatively streamlined. Like I got mine repaired, but
Mhm.
even the third gen version that they dropped into laptops, like it's still messed up all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. Like I did really like that keyboard. I like the the lower
Low
key travel.
travel. Yeah.
It felt futuristic. It felt like what I knew Apple as, and it felt like the future of laptops, like in a way. And it was like kind of exciting to think about. And I think you said this before we started recording. Like laptops are so thin now. What are they going to look like in 5 years? It's five
And like
years later now.
we were saying that in 2016. Yeah.
Yeah, and now we're back, right? We're back to like these thicker devices, and I know that it's got everything everybody wants, and I know that things kind of had to go in this direction, especially because of all the mistakes Apple made with the that Pro from
And
2016.
we should say like we both have the new Pros and we love them.
Yeah, I like it. It's sick.
Yeah.
I gave it like I don't. What was my score? I'm gonna look it up. I gave it like a stellar
Probably a
review.
9. I legit bought one. My girlfriend bought one. Like we had issues, but like it's the computer to buy in terms of like price to performance to value is
Especially with
not
the
the
new
right word,
chips.
but you get the like if you're video or doing video or photos, like having that like color accurate screen baked in there is so nice. Like, that to me was like the biggest thing.
Yeah, I gave it a 9 out of 10. It was like near perfect for me, but there's no getting around the fact that it's a chunky laptop that doesn't look as futuristic or as sleek as the previous ones.
Yeah, and I get it, but yeah, it's almost like they misled us with the M1. They were like, "We've created the chip with like all the power consumption, blah 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 blah." And it's like it's cool they did do that. Like, there's no denying that they've created this chip with like lower power consumption to performance ratios than what Intel was doing at the time. Although I believe the gap is closing quite quickly. Um, but then we expect when they announced it in like the Air, the iPad Pro, and the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini, I believe, and then the iMac actually came out ultra thin as well. We were like, "Whoa, how
Yeah.
thin are these new Pros gonna be?" And they redesigned them, and they were like, "We added 6 millimeters," which again, nothing. We're not really complaining about it, but it was just it didn't
Genuinely shocking
necessarily
to see.
feel futuristic. Yeah, and last night when I was running Chrome OS on this 2016 MacBook Pro, it felt more futuristic than that Mac, and that's how we started talking about this earlier. But yeah, it was like running Chrome OS on this super old 2016 MacBook Pro, thin, like 4 USB ports, because like that's the port of the future, like it's just a weird thing to talk about. But I guess that's our side tangent for this episode. We get back into the iPhone
We'll
SE now.
we'll talk more about MacBook stuff in a little bit, but yeah, the iPhone SE, it's always like a fascinating device. I've done like all of our SE reviews over the years, like from the more squared off like iPhone 4 like one to the last two that are pretty much just an iPhone 8. It's such a fascinating device to me because it's truly like the spare parts bin of Apple products. And I thought that like the spare parts bin was like slowly getting empty, and they were running out of the Touch ID button and like the iPhone 8 like design. But if
Yeah.
these
How many
rumors
of
are
those did
true,
Johnny Ive back order? Speaking of things
yeah,
you don't,
yeah,
I've,
he's got a
they're
lot of
just
them. He
sitting
just
on a
really like the
warehouse
iPhone
full
8.
of Touch ID buttons.
Yeah, because like that's
They
what this
just,
is going to be again. It's going to be
yeah.
the same phone that we saw in 2020, which I know there's an audience for out there. Like I know people still like that physical. It's not totally physical because it's haptic, but they still like that Touch ID button. They like the size of the phone. They're not mad about the bezels. They just want an iPhone that works. I know there's an audience out there for it because Apple wouldn't be making it if there wasn't. But part of me still wishes that this phone was more than just like a new processor. Like I wish they took parts from the XR, the colors from the XR. That was like one of my favorite like entry
Yeah.
level iPhones back in the day, which I'm saying back in the day, it wasn't that long ago. It was just a couple of years ago.
Was it 4
Um,
years though?
I
3
think it
years?
was roughly 3-4 years at this point.
11,
Um,
12, 13 XR. Jeez.
but
Woo!
it would have been
Yeah.
cool to see
Anyway.
them do something different, just not the
Yeah.
same iPhone 8, because that's essentially what it is. It's just an iPhone 8 with an
Well, let's be
A15
clear. We
chip.
don't know yet. We're heavily
Sure.
speculating that it will continue, and the rumors are all pointing us to that it will still be the home
Yeah.
button. But
It could
I'm a
be
believer,
different.
Pat. I'm looking at the world with a glass half full.
I just like get rid of the home button, give it like reduced bezels, put that A15 chip in it, make it a little bit chunkier than the current iPhone, keep that rounded design that people like. Like it could be a really cool device. And I think what we're going to get is something that's like pretty expected and pretty pedestrian at the same time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what would be a reasonable because they still sell the 11, right? Is that like the mid-range iPhone right now? Am I crazy?
Not sure
Because
what
they've
they
sold
still
the
sell.
XR for a while.
Yeah, they still sell so it's the 11. Yeah, this is how it usually works. So they still sell the 11, they still sell the 2020 SE, the 12, and then the 13. So it's usually the last 3 generations are around, and then there's the SE like kind of coming up from behind.
Hmm. Well, the SE and the 11 are both running A13 chips right now. So the
Yep,
new SE would move up to an A15.
it'd be a jump for sure, a jump
Yeah,
in
yeah, no,
hardware
no, no. I'm
power.
just trying to think of like if you put like how much do you have to limit the chip and the camera performance to put the bigger screen in it before it starts cannibalizing like Apple's other
That's true.
markets, you know? Because it's like you could put the A16 in it, put in the iPhone 11 body, but then it's just like what do they sell? Like they can't sell an iPhone 12 next year. Yeah, they can't sell the iPhone 12 next year as that low cost one because the SE will actually be better than it, which is what we want and what we deserve. But Apple's not going to give that to us. They
Well,
don't. They don't give us what we deserve. Well,
that's
they
one of the
do
funnest
sometimes. Sorry,
that's one of
Apple.
the funnest
You know.
things to do when like I'm reviewing the SE phones is doing benchmarks because the
Mhm.
screen is so resolution, and like that's another thing that they should 100% upgrade in the SE is like put in a higher resolution display, like stop putting in the same iPhone 8 screen. But because of that lower resolution, the phone ends up benchmarking like crazy high. Like it typically has less RAM in it, which is a thing that Apple never talks about in its specs. So
RAM
it
doesn't
doesn't
exist.
RAM doesn't exist. It's just the phones are powered by fairies and magic dust.
And
But yeah, it
powered by
always
hard
benchmarks
work
really good.
and attention to font detail.
Attention to font detail.
But yeah, the fact that they benchmark so punch so high above their weight class makes me kind of always want one. Like I'm of, I'm a person of like my review perspectives kind of go between like three minds. Where I'm like trying to think of like my mom is the everyday person being like one perspective. My perspective would be like if I was buying something, trying to get like the most price performance and value out of it possible, and then also like I think this is why I'm good at my job, but like the huge gadget nerd perspective that just loves
Yeah.
every single gadget that comes out. So it's like I always want the 13 Pro or the biggest iPhone with the most features, blah 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 blah, because a gadget nerd Brad wants that. But price to performance, Brad is like, whoa, $400, top of the line iPhone chip, pretty decent camera, and it's like this big. Just seems like it's almost like impulse buy territory where I just want to have one and just like never put a case on it and not give a thought to or care about it. Just be like, this is my like burner. And I know
That
that's
would be
terrible,
cool.
but I just like I love the idea that you could get so much phone for like a third of the price of a regular phone. You know, I guess I'm trying to. I think that's coming across as me being like wasting technology and like destroying things that aren't
No.
like it's not that way. I just like I love the value of it. I want to get the maximum out of like I want to use it as hardcore as I would use a 13 Pro and just try to get maximum value out of it. You know.
So those are the two things that we think we're going to see at the March 8th event for certain, which again, like Apple hasn't confirmed the event. We don't know any of this for sure. But rumors point to like us seeing an Air and an iPhone SE. And then there's other
An
stuff that's
iPad
come
Air, not a
out.
MacBook Air, too.
So yeah,
Just to be
sorry,
clear.
iPad Air to be specific. And then there's other rumors that have come out, sourced from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, who is like the ultimate source of Apple leaks. He's been around forever at this point. Was like a child prodigy leaker back in the day, and now works for Bloomberg and is still dropping that knowledge.
Have you
And there's
seen
a
King
lot of
Richard? Have you
sorry,
seen the movie King Richard yet?
no, I haven't. No.
Oh, it's about like Venus and Serena Williams, but it's about their dad raising them.
Oh, I haven't
I'm
seen
just
it, but I know
imagining
what it
Mark
is.
Gurman's dad just like having him over a laptop, like, you will get these leaks. You will figure
Find
it.
the
Yeah, and the movie's not
leaks.
like that. Richard apparently was a really nice guy, but a hard worker. I don't know. It's a good movie, but yeah, just imagine him like just as a child prodigy leaker, like a whiplash over the piano, but it's a laptop. Sorry to interrupt. Just
It
had to
could
get that
be. It
out
could
there.
be. Who knows?
Hmm.
But yeah, there was a report that came out through his Power On newsletter that there'll be 7 Macs coming in the next year, 7 new Macs.
Oh yeah, in the next
I
year.
think that we'll see them, maybe not in the next year. And I don't know if we're going to see any at this particular event. The one Mac that I think might appear is the Mac Mini. And my expectation is that it'll be the same Mac Mini, no design changes, maybe some changes with the ports, something like that. Apple sometimes shakes that up,
I heard they're
but
gonna
it'll
put
be
flames
powered.
on the side.
That would be sick, like the Hot
Yeah,
Wheels computer.
bingo.
It's just blue with flames.
Yeah, and one max inside, twice as fast. That's how you know.
It's gonna have the rumor is that it's gonna have the Pro or the Max chip in it, which makes sense to me. That's the only Mac that I see showing up.
That would actually be a great budget buy if they price it well as well. Like
My
you get
brother
more
actually,
performance out of a Mac Mini with an M1 Pro or Max chip.
my brother bought a Mac Mini, a refurbished Mac Mini, that he just
Nice.
runs on like a regular monitor because it's one of the best.
It's a
If you
good
want an
deal.
M1 chip and you already
Yeah.
got like a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse and everything ready to go, it's one of the best deals around. Like
Oh,
for a
yeah.
computer, just period, bar none.
And like if you have the right setup to, I remember this is getting kind of niche. But if you have the right setup to, you can like mount them to the back of the display. It becomes like very seamless if it's like against a wall. It's not as pretty as an iMac, but they're small, like way smaller than a Windows PC tower, which
No, that's true.
I love that about them.
So yeah, that's what I think we're gonna see. There's also rumors about like a 27-inch iMac Pro. I don't think that's gonna happen at this event. I don't know even really what to expect from it. Like I think it's gonna look like the 24-inch iMac, just in less cool colors with possibly an M2 chip. That's my expectation.
You think they would wait till the M2 to put that out? They wouldn't put an
I do,
M1
yeah.
Pro or an M1 Max. That makes
They might.
yeah, I can see that.
I just
No, because if they save until the second half of the year, I think they would have to put the M2 in it. So.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I think it's going to come out in the second half of the year, and that they're going to have to put the M2 in it just because it's so far from the M1 Pro and Max release. And I don't expect it to be that much different from the iMac, like the 24-inch iMac. Like I think it'll be the same thing, fancier chips, less colorful. I hope they change stuff. I hope it has like reduced bezels because like I'm glancing back at the yellow iMac. It's nice, but if they reduce those bezels, it would be even nicer, and it'd be cool to see that in a Pro version.
Yeah, I think the Pro version would need it. I think like the fact that they reduce the bezels so much in the MacBook makes me think that they know people want it, right? Like they know that the big bezels is not a great look. The big white bezels on the iMac were very intentional, but I'm really hoping they don't do that with like black bezels.
That's my
That'd be
biggest
crazy.
issue.
Yeah.
Like I don't really, the bezels aren't that big. Like it was a little over exaggerated by some people that reviewed it, but the fact that they were white was pretty distracting. Like it just like you see them, like you're always staring at them, or at least that's what I found when I was using one.
Yeah, I haven't used one, so I won't speak too much, but I don't think it's necessarily about like being that annoyed by them while you're using the computer. I'm sure you just like the notch and everything. You get used to it, but it's just like we know they don't have to be this big. Like we know you have the technology, Apple. You could have really stretched this out, and that would have been also very premium looking, we think. But yeah, so what you sorry. You said you think there's going to be, or Mark Gurman thinks there's going to be 7 new Macs. So we've got
not at this event, but like
no, I know throughout
some
the year.
of them,
I'm just like
some of them
rallying
might
up
be
where we are so
revealed.
far.
Some of them might be revealed at a different event later in the year, but in general, there will be 7 new Macs this year. One of them being like a refreshed entry level 13-inch MacBook.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Like, do you think that's coming for real? I do not.
I think that Apple's just going to get rid of that laptop. Like, I don't think that category exists anymore. That's my perspective. It's not based on anything other than like covering the industry and like for this long. Like, I don't have any rumors or leaks or anything like that. I don't think it needs to exist, right? Like, I know it's weird. There still now because they were manufacturing them and then they brought out the Pro and whatever. They got to sell whatever stock's left. But I just don't see it. Like I truly don't see it coming back in a different way. Like people are talking about there'll be like a revamped version of it that's like something in between the 14-inch and the 13-inch in terms of design with no touch bar, and like I just don't see it happening. I don't think it needs to exist. I don't know why it would exist. It just complicates like Apple's lineup.
Computer. I think both of us, I guess, are on the same page about it disappearing. Like, it doesn't make sense if the MacBook Air is there running the same chip, the exact same chip with pretty much very similar performance, and then the 14-inch Pro is right there. It just seems unlikely, although it does fill a nice gap price-wise. So what I'm expecting is the new M2 MacBook Air gets a redesign.
Yes.
Better thermal management somehow. Hopefully not a fan, but better thermal management somehow. It goes up like $500. Yeah, it goes up like $500. And then that just sort of like fills that gap in between Air and 13-inch Pro, and then that fills the like regular gap. Because right now I see the price gap between the 14-inch and the 14-inch and the Air filled by the 13-inch. But I think that's if you're just looking at the price gap now. And Apple's not looking at that as a price gap. They're looking at it as like a price ladder. And they're just like climbing it to make their products more expensive year after year after year. We see it with everything. So they're not going to make a 13-inch to make laptops cheaper. Laptops are just getting more expensive from Apple, unfortunately. I think the M1s were such a good deal because they were the first in a lineup. Apple had to prove that they could offer like crazy good value, but I think they're just going to get more expensive from here.
I'm
I might be
interested
wrong, but
to see what they do with the new Air. Like, it's not going to be at this event, so I'll preface it with that. Like, I think they'll do like the Air
later
is
half
so
of the year, you
popular.
think?
Yeah, it'll be
Do
later
you
in
think
the
it would
year.
get
And
its own event?
it may be its own event because the Air is so popular. Like, people were still buying the old school. Like, I knew people that bought up like 2 MacBook Airs just so that they had extra ones on tap if their other one broke when Apple discontinued it. Like, people are so like the old Air, the old
Yeah,
Air
yeah,
with
yeah.
like the
I think I have
MagSafe and
one.
all
That's
that
it.
stuff. I have one summer. It was like my first Mac that I got in like 2011 or 2012 or something like that. Yeah, there you go. There it is.
You know what they need to bring back, actually?
Is that that's the old one? Is that the old one with MagSafe or is that the USB-C one?
MagSafe. This is like a
MagSafe.
2011.
Okay, yeah. So it is the old one.
Yeah, you recognize these bezels, baby.
The lovely chrome bezels or brushed aluminum bezels.
I kind of like them. This is actually nice too.
It's nice. It's still nice. Like a decade
Yeah,
later.
I want the light up logo to come back. That's what they should have brought back in these like retro
No.
Mac M1 Pro ones.
No.
I also brought my little MacBook up as well.
Oh, the baby, the 12-inch. But yeah, like I'm excited to see what they do with the Air because I think it's one of the most important laptops that Apple has in its category, in that category, because it's always like it's hit the right price point in terms of pricing. I think it lost its way a little bit with the Intel ones that featured that redesign from a couple years ago. I think now that Apple has its own chips, it can come back to being like what the MacBook was in the early 2010s, like the one that you're showing off, like the 2011. And I'm excited to see it get like a different design with an M2 chip, hopefully, or the M1 Pro or the M1 Max, something like that. But I don't know what it's going to look like. I want to see, but what I do want to see is a different design, different colors. Like that's what I'd like, is something that's a little more colorful and interesting, because it's always been Apple's more like fun laptop.
Yeah, and all the things that they offer in colors, they still often have white or a silver or a black or some dark navy, something very approachable. So I don't think it's too big of an issue. But yeah, I'd expect it to be the M2. I think the way that the way that they've been doing the M rollout so far, it makes a lot of sense to go in like the MacBook Air as like the M1 version, and then half a year goes by, they can refine on it, add more GPUs. I mean, they've probably already done that half a year before, but for us, half a year goes by, and then they release the M2 Pro, and like, yeah, actually, I mean, like logically, now that we've sort of like talked this all out, it would make sense. And this is like, I'm saying logically, but I mean logically in my own head, just based on our conversations. I mean, from what we know, this isn't what's going to be happening, but yeah, it would make sense to do the MacBook, or not the MacBook, the Mac Mini with the M1 Pro and M1 Max chips first, get that refreshed. Then sometime in the summer, maybe around like WWDC, because that's like, I feel like the M2 MacBook Air would be the perfect like developer laptop too.
Yeah. Yep.
And then like sometime in the summer do that, and then in the winter or fall do the 27-inch iMac Pro with the M2 Pro chip. And like that's how you would stage those new chips going out, I think.
I agree with that, but I think that they might reveal the 27-inch Pro, iMac Pro at WWDC, because whether or not it's true, Apple would view that internally as like a device for developers, right? Like for professionals.
Right.
So there's a possibility they might drop that in the summer in that WWDC window, or at least show it off first at WWDC and get people hyped about it, and then maybe drop it at a later date, because they do have a history of doing that. Like they did that with the HomePod and other stuff.
They just haven't done a new computer with an old chip. They haven't done a new computer launch without being alongside a new chip launch in a while. So I'd expect the MacBook Minis kind of a write-off, kind of like don't really fit into this plan, but it's like they might not even appear, to be honest. Like we might not get new Mac Minis until the M2 hits. Like
it's
who
possible.
knows what that's are, but yeah, so much speculation. But yeah, I put my money down on the Air coming first with an M2 and the 27-inch iMac coming with an M2 Pro.
You think the Air is first before anything?
No. Like Air in the summer, maybe minis at this event, but either minis or nothing, and then Air in the summer, and then
Yeah,
iMac after the
I
Air.
agree. I think that's possibly about how it'll play out. The only other stuff that we've seen rumors about, and like these are things that I 100% do not think will appear at this event, but the possibility of a cheaper Pro Display XDR,
What do you
which
think's
has me
cheaper for
excited.
Pro Display XDR? Like $2,000,
Yeah,
$1,000?
when I say cheaper, I mean like still way more money than I would ever
Because the
spend
original is what,
on a
15
monitor.
grand,
The Pro Display
9
XDR.
grand. Yeah.
I'm gonna look this up. Someone's gonna complain probably in the comments that I don't have the cost of the Pro Display XDR just like on
I have
tap
it tattooed on my
stapled to my
back, but I
wall.
can't see it here without a mirror. So it's like
I'm trying to
basically
find
like
it on Apple's website. Pro Display XDR
buried it.
cost. It's like 5K.
No, it's more. It's gotta be more. Is it 5K?
Yeah, it's
I think
It's like
really
5K.
okay. Yeah, it might. Maybe I'm just mixing it up with the like MacBook or the Mac
Starts
Pro that
at
came out at that time.
it starts
It was
at
crazy expensive, I guess.
$6,299 for the one that doesn't have the nano textured glass.
All right, I'll give it to you. That's about 5K. But,
So with
the
that in
cheaper version
mind,
would be
1,500, something like that.
yeah. And what is it? It's just the same screen technology you think that's in the new MacBook Pros.
Basically, yeah,
Does
120
that make
hertz.
the old Pro Display XDR irrelevant though?
No, there's like I don't want to get into it because I don't know a lot about the Pro Display XDR, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes with the XDR about like color and like dark zones and lots of stuff that's like, to be honest, well beyond me, because that thing's like not designed for, like, I know a lot of YouTubers use it, but it's not even designed for stuff like that. Like the idea behind the Pro Display XDR, and like not denying that it's
from
not
The Verge, where like it still has the same blooming issues, and like
Yeah,
the blooming issues might actually be better on the
yes,
Pros
yes.
because they're like smaller scale.
What I was gonna say is just it's not like for a regular person. Like I know YouTubers get it,
Yeah,
but it's like it's for Disney to buy like 15 of them. That's why when the price came out and everyone was like going crazy over it, I was like, well, this is not for you. Like Apple's not telling you to go out and buy a $6,000
Yeah.
monitor. Like they shouldn't have even launched this at a consumer event in some sense. Anyways,
Yeah, you're right. They definitely shouldn't have, but from a marketing perspective, it was that
they wanted to get hype
Mac
behind
Pro
it.
stuff was headlines, and it was hype. But yeah, you're
So
right.
my guess is it'll be about $1,500. It'll be very similar to the current Mac Pro's display in terms of quality. It'll have the 120 hertz. I'm hoping that it has stuff like HDMI 2.1. Like I don't know if this is coming, but we have seen rumors about Apple building an external display for like 3 years at this point. So that leads me to believe that there has to be some level of truth to it, like a cheaper external display. I know the Pro Display XDR already exists.
It just seems like a market they could easily get into and make money in, so it's weird that they're not there.
Yeah, I could see it happening.
Do you think there's anything wacky in it though, like built-in webcam, or like the cable is like locked into it, like the HomePod, where you can't like take the cable out of the device, or anything like weird like that?
Maybe,
or like you have to, even at $1,500, you got to buy the stand separate. Like any of those weird quirks you think we get if we ever see it?
I don't think there would be
shot in the dark. Yeah,
I don't think there'd be anything like a stand, like a $1,500 stand, like we saw with the Pro Display XDR. Again, that was like, I'm not saying that's not crazy, like because people are gonna jump in the comments and be like, "Ah, you're like an Apple shill. You think that's worth it?" But like that
$1,500 stand was that's tough.
That stand's not for you, dude. That's like Disney buys 10,000 of those monitors, and then they also buy like 10,000 stands. Like that's just like a blip on the dot for their budget for the year.
Yeah.
And I just keep using Disney as an example because that was like one of the companies that was actually buying them.
They have the money to like not notice costs like that. Yeah, and
they're not for regular
huge
people,
production house. Yeah, it's a good
but
idea.
for the like for this one, if it does exist, I could see it having the same like kind of breakaway cord situation that the new iMac has on the back.
Oh, I hope so. That would be cool. The
braided cable.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there would be anything else. It might have a built-in webcam, but
I think they would do the webcam to help justify the cost for regular consumers. I think throw that in there because they don't even use good webcams. It's like jam one in there, because like if you're using that display for your Mac Mini or something, I think like that's how they'll be marketing it for your Mac Mini or your iMac.
That is what
maybe
they'll
not.
do. Yeah.
Maybe they'll be marketing it as a sidekick for your MacBook Pro or something. Who knows? And then the webcam will mean less, but. Yeah, I guess let's move on. We got anything else to speculate about, or do you have anything else to say about this, guys?
One last thing. All I was gonna say is, shit, I lost my train of thought. If it does exist, and it does feature HDMI 2.1 and 120 hertz screen, and it could do like everything that I needed to do, like be a great HDR monitor. I could use it for gaming. I would be okay with spending that much on one because I'm looking for like a new monitor. I want one that supports 120 hertz, and they're just so much money right now. But if Apple were to release one, I would be like a little more confident in getting it because I know it would work well with my MacBook, and I would assume that it would work with gaming stuff too if it has HDMI 2.1 as a console gamer. Like I know on
Yeah.
PC getting 120 hertz is different. You can do it through DisplayPort and stuff like that, but yeah, I was just gonna say like I would consider actually buying one. Like I am looking for a new monitor that features that higher display resolution. But in terms of like, just to wrap it up, like in terms of other things that are coming out, like there's a possibility that we could see an M1 Mac Pro. The expectation is that it'll feature the same, like kind of not as bad as people presented it to be, cheese grater design. Like when you see that in person, and I made this argument like several years ago when I was
I
at the
don't think
reveal.
anyone thinks it's like terrible. It's just like funny to
It
like.
is, yeah, it's funny, but there
Yeah.
was like a contingent of people that thought it was like absolutely ridiculous, and like
Yeah.
it kind of is, but it also kind of looks pretty cool when you see it in person and you can see
I
like
kind of like the
intricacies.
industrialness of it. Yeah.
That's what I like. That's what I said. Like when
Yeah.
it came out. That's the only other thing. That's the last thing is we might see an M1 powered Mac Pro, but it'll have like 15 M1 Pro, not 15, but like 4
That'd be hilarious though. Like
That'd
you're
be
just
sick.
like there's like GPU like cards that you're just slotting in. They're just like
Yeah.
M1 Pros all
15
along it. You're like
15
just
M1 Pros
15
and a
M1
Mac Pro.
card, and it combusts.
But that's the rumor,
Um,
is that it would have multiple chips in it to justify the cost of it. And I don't think we're going to see that. If we do, it would be at WWDC or something developer focused. They're not going to
I
show that off at this event.
in my sort of like timeline that I've planned it in my head throughout this episode. So if you've been listening, you know. But I'm thinking we get M2 Air this year, the M2 Pro 27-inch iMac, and then we get like M3 Air next year, or like M3 iPad Pro,
They're
or
already on
something
the
like some
M3.
device to go M3. Well, next year they'll do M3. I
Yeah,
think,
that's
right?
true.
Like, and I think the M3 level is when they'll put it in the Mac Pro.
Yeah,
Would be my guess.
I think that's a fair timeline.
Like I think they would start with like, because I think that's that's the top of the Apple computer pyramid. I don't know if you can see me on camera, but that's the top of the Apple computer pyramid. So I think we build up like year over year.
It's the last one to come.
Yeah, and it's like because they can't release it and have a situation like we talked about with the iPad Air and the iPad Mini last year, where it's like, wow, they put out the iPad Air, it's nice, and then like 6 months later they put out a smaller version that's even more powerful with a newer chip, because it's like that could happen if they put like an M1 Pro in the Mac Pro. They're gonna put out the M2 like 6 months later, or like some, they couldn't do it this year before the M2 came out.
They'd have to give at least a little bit of space.
I think so. By that same logic, they could do it at the end of the year with like an M2 Pro, perhaps. But I think they would be more inclined to put the M2 Pro in the 27-inch iMac.
Anything's possible. So I
Hire
think
me,
that's
Apple.
probably
Business strategy.
You're the new business strategy expert. So I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up. I guess we'll still go through the games that we've been playing.
If you playing any, yeah, go for it.
I have. I'm taking a break from Halo Infinite because I have played that game for, I think the last time I checked, 7 hours since it came out on like December 12th. Sorry, not 7 hours.
Days?
7 days. 7 days.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm taking a break from it. They're resetting ranks. All of my ranks are gone.
You're just like, I've played for 7 days. Look off into the like distance. Like, wow, yeah, I'm gonna take a break.
Taking a break from it. Didn't play it all. We had an extra long weekend at work, which was super nice because I needed to unplug for a bit.
Super nice.
And yeah, I didn't really play much Infinite. Maybe played 1 or 2 games. And they're resetting the ranks, I guess, is that what I was getting at before. And that's what I play. I play ranked Halo. I was like Diamond 4. It was the highest I was able to get. Really trying to get to that Onyx as a 33-year-old man is a near impossible task.
Is it the highest level Onyx?
Yeah, there's like levels within Onyx. There's like pros
Onyx
are like
2,500,
and it starts at 1,500 CSR. I won't get into it, but like that is the highest level. But yeah, I'm just a couple levels away from it and couldn't quite get there. And now they're resetting the ranks, so I'll let it ride out for a bit and let people get to whatever rank they're supposed to be, and then I'll start grinding that again. And also, the game, there's just not a hell of a lot to do in it right now. Like I'm max level 100. I've done all of the events. I think there's an event coming back this week, Fractured Tenrai, but it's like all the armor for like the samurai suit that I don't care about.
How many maps are in there? I mean, I
It's
feel like
not
over
a
7
lot.
days you're getting, there wasn't a whole lot of maps, which I thought was okay, but if I'd played for 7 days, I'd be
Yeah,
getting bored of them, I think.
I'm getting pretty bored of it. Especially in ranked, there's even less maps, right? Because it's
Really?
all about
Right,
competitive.
the smaller ones, yeah.
I just
Is
got
there
really
DLC
into it.
plans? No, it's a
Sorry,
good game. Is there DLC plans? There
they
must be,
well,
but are they public
there's going
yet,
to
I
be
guess?
stuff coming in season 2, right? Which is only a couple months away at this point.
But
But
will it
the
be maps or just
expectation,
like more armor skins and stuff?
nobody knows, right? Like
Mm,
the expectation is that the next couple months is just going to be like fixes. Like there's issues
yeah.
with desync. There's all kinds of problems with the game. But I am shocked that I got as into it as I did. It was like
I'm really
all I
proud of you for
did.
getting that high into ranked because we every time we talk about Halo, you'd be like, "My Halo career is done. If only I was 12." But you did it, like as a 33-year-old man, 33-year-old man, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
32.
Close.
Um,
33.
okay, 33. As a
Close.
33-year-old
Close
man,
to
you fucking
Onyx.
did it. You know, like you broke through that glass ceiling of
I
Halo
did.
matchmaking.
I did want to make Onyx. That was like my ultimate goal, and we'll see. Maybe when they reset the ranks, I'll be able to make it happen. But it's supposed to be more difficult. They've changed it so that the expectation is that I'm diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm diamond. The expectation is that I'll be platinum 4. You'll be like one rank lower because the distribution was off. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But
interesting.
this weekend didn't play any Infinite. I played a game called Triangle Strategy on the
Oh yeah,
Switch
yeah, yeah.
from Square Enix. A lot like Final Fantasy Tactics. It's a type of game that I grew up playing a ton as a kid. On Game Boy
Amazing art
Advance, I played.
style.
Yeah, super cool art style. Really weird game, even for like a Japanese developed RPG, where there's this demo is 6 hours long. And quite honestly, there is only 3 battles in it in that 6 hours. It's all this conjecture and like setting up the story. And then there's like these weird sequences where like you have to convince people on your team to like take a certain stance on a trip that you're going on so that you like go in that direction in the game instead of the other. There's like way more to it than just the battling, which I was surprised about, and it was kind of nice to see in a kind of like more tactical RPG.
I think they started to lean into more like Fire Emblem, Three Houses, and stuff like that.
That's
So I
what it's
guess
like.
that's something that's
It's a lot like Fire Emblem
starting to
Three
infiltrate
Houses.
the genre.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
I'm probably gonna buy it. I'm pretty impressed with it so far. One thing I'll say is the voice acting is god awful. Like it's so bad that it's funny. I typically play the game. I got to see if there's a way to turn it off because like it ruins it for me. Like some of the characters are interesting, and the writing isn't that bad, but like when you hear the voices, it just takes you out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm probably gonna buy it next week when it comes out. Pretty impressed with it.
Cool.
Have you been playing anything? I know you haven't been gaming
A little
lately.
bit actually. I think it was Friday night. Alex and I played like Grand Theft Auto until like 6 a.m.
The remakes?
No, GTA 5. She'd never played it.
Oh,
so,
nice.
I had tried the remake of GTA 3 and I just was not super into it. I don't have much of an affiliation for those ones because I didn't grow up with them as much. Although I really do like the aesthetic of Vice City, so I'd like to go back and play that one. But we have GTA 5 on the Xbox One, so we were just like, let's play that. And Alex never played it, so we just like crushed the story in there for a while. And it was nice to like play GTA again with someone that had never played it. It's one of my favorite games in like university, high school. So just like to come in fresh again and just like kind of like watch Alex experience it was really nice.
Just so that I can feel super old, did GTA 5 come out when you were in high school?
Yep.
Great, cool.
I think it came out near the end.
GTA
because the remake
3.
came out.
Yeah. The remake on the
the
last gen consoles that were current gen at the time.
Yeah. Is there another remake coming out for the newer Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5?
Yeah, the GTA 5. They're going to re-release it, so it's been across 3 console generations.
But is it getting like any enhancements?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty much the same game. Maybe like some
probably
like
wouldn't
60
pay for it
frames per
again
second,
anyway,
that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's
the only thing I was going to say before we close out was like, so for me, the GTA that I played the most was Grand Theft Auto 3. Like I remember when it came out on PC because I never owned a
PlayStation.
I never owned a PlayStation console. So it came out on PC and my parents' computer wasn't quite good enough to run it. It only had like 16 gigs of RAM or something, and GTA
wouldn't have been gigs at that time. Megabytes of RAM.
16 megabytes of RAM. Yeah, you're right. And it required like 32 megabits or something like that. So I quite like I actually bought it. I installed it. I played it, and I beat it like probably running at something like 24 frames per second, maybe even less sometimes. Where like sometimes the game was like Max Payne style in slow motion. And I beat it. I finished it. I like got super into the modding scene where I would like install crazy mods and like custom skins, and like I was
That's
really
not
into
it
it.
run any better. Yeah,
No,
that's
it
sick,
did.
though.
It didn't help it run. But yeah, GTA 3 is my thing, and I actually thought about buying the remakes, like when it was coming out again, like the remake of GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, and didn't because they got such a poor reception.
And they're probably it's one of those things that like it came out and you're like, I think I'll wait and I'm gonna get this really.
That's what I
cheap.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll wait till they come out.
Yeah, but it's exciting. Oh, the last thing I wanted to talk about, we hinted at it, we forgot, but this bad boy. And for the audio listeners, I'm holding up a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra with a look of sadness on my face. Let me get that look. Let me nail it. But
explain why quickly.
Yeah. So basically, this would happen. The Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra came out. It's a busy day. We're all trying to write lots of news about it. And Patrick puts in the chat, hey, seeing some reports of people unable to buy the phone. Like they're getting to the checkout bin. It's not working. And I was like, my credit's not bad right now. I'll do it. And so I ordered one. And I was like, well, the phone's not coming out for 2 weeks. Like, surely I'll be able to cancel this order between then and now. And I did twice. I went online once. Well, actually 3 times. Went online once. Had to wait 3.5 hours for chat support. Didn't follow that through. Left. Waited a few days. Called Samsung. Canceled my pre-order. Didn't get a confirmation email. Called them again the next day. That person was like, yeah, we can see it on our end that if we put in the request to cancel in, I'll put in another one. I've marked it urgent, blah, blah, blah. At this point, we're still like 4 days out from the release of we're still 4 days out from now, I guess, because the phone actually doesn't release until Friday, but I have it. And like, I bought this. This isn't a MobileSyrup. Brad got this for work.
He purchased it as a regular man.
I'm a regular human being who bought this, and Samsung delivered it to my house a week early, and I attempted to cancel it twice because I didn't want this phone. I just was trying to test that, like, if Bixby. I was just trying to test to see if like other consumers were being able to like buy, or if the Samsung website was crashing.
We do all the time.
Yeah, it happens all the time, and like usually you cancel them, no problem. This one didn't happen, so now I'm sitting here with an S22 Ultra. Filmed a little unboxing earlier. Probably write a little blog post about this experience. I've done some camera tests and a little walk, but yeah, it's been my mic is sitting on the box.
The ultimate stand.
Yeah, well, it's a good height actually. This little thinner box. No charger in the box. We'll say that.
But a nice ringtone that I hear frequently.
I don't know how to turn it off. I keep thinking I've got it off because it came on mid-podcast, and I like tried to turn it off because Amazon was like, gone. Somebody just messaged me, is your application package gone? What is it?
It's gone. Okay, I'll wrap it up. That's it. Thanks for listening to the SyrupCast. You can find me on Twitter at Patrick_Rourke, and of course on MobileSyrup.com. Bennett, where can people find you?
You can find me on MobileSyrup.com, living in the Samsung Dex verse for the next little bit, I guess. MobileSyrup.com, MobileSyrup's YouTube channel. Actually, you won't see me on the channel this week. It will be Dean, because he did a review of the actual S20. Oh my god, so many calls. I never get this many calls. The actual review of the S22 Ultra, which will go up on our YouTube. And then you'll see me here. Well, I guess this will be on YouTube too. So you'll see me around all the MobileSyrup channels, and you can follow me anywhere at the BradFed.
And as always, you can find all of our content on MobileSyrup.com, and also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MobileSyrup. See ya.